Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
This is I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying it was Matt LaFleur's best coached game, but I'm just saying that was his most aggressively coached football game. And I saw quite a few people who have been very critical of Matt LaFleur, not only for this year, but maybe for the last couple of years or last few years or and such, even say, hey, I got to tip my cap to him. That was quite the coaching performance from Matt LaFleur in that game. And, yeah, he definitely had some cojones for some of his decisions. And it just, he put his trust, he put the game in the hands of his players with those fourth down conversions for touchdowns, with that fourth down conversion at the end of the game. He easily, after Christian Watson dropped that pass, and it was a tough catch, I get it, but after he dropped that pass on third down that would have ended the game, could have easily punted and said, man, I don't want to go through that, another potential drop pass and such. It wasn't like it was like fourth and inches. He put the ball in his hands of his quarterback and trusted his quarterback to make a throw, trusted his receivers to make a play. And I don't know what the feeling is from some of the players and such within that locker room, but if my head coach is putting the ball game in our hands, in my hands, on my shoulders, where he's out there saying, go win this for me, or go win this game. That, to me, would send a lot of positive vibes throughout the locker room, throughout the building. That would get me more pumped up. And then the fact that they went out there and did it. You want to talk about a confidence boost? Right there. For the last few weeks, I think a lot of the criticism surrounding Matt LaFleur and maybe just the Packers overall, it felt like they were being held back. Maybe some handcuffing going on and such. Didn't get the sense of that in this game. And Matt LaFleur was exactly right after the game. If we're going to come into Detroit going up against a Dan Campbell team, we know Dan Campbell's uber aggressive. Super, super, super aggressive. Probably one of the most, if not the most aggressive coach in the National Football League. You have to match that. You have to at least match that. And that's exactly what LaFleur and the Packers did in this game. You can't play passive. You can't play, almost scared. You can't just try to take those blows and try to overcome them yourself. You have to match those haymakers. You have to match those hits. And you got to give them kudos for doing that. We talk about wanting a team this offseason. Packers wanted to be more physical. And when you talk about, being more physical, you think about from a body sense, from a play stance. But I would also say more physical from just a mindset. To have that killer mentality, to kind of have that, if we're going to sit there and the head coach is always going to say, all gas, no brakes, you have to practice it. Not just preach it, practice it. And I think that physicality part, we focus on it more in on the field sense, but it's got to come from a mindset too. And probably a lot of people are finally saying, right now saying, finally. Where was this maybe all season long? To bring that aggressiveness, to have that type of mindset. And I think with this stretch run here, in these final 5 games, you have to carry that mindset throughout the rest of the regular season and into the postseason. Sure, there's times too where, the ultra aggressiveness, it's going to be questioned. People question Dan Campbell all the time, especially when it gets to the postseason. Is that the right way to coach in the postseason? Will some of his decisions cost the team in the postseason? We heard it last year. We heard it the year before. It's that fine line. There's no perfect way. If there was a perfect way, coaches would be doing the same exact thing week in and week out. If that was out there, everybody would be doing it. That's why we play that's why we play these games. That's why these outcomes, they get played out on the field. But what I watching that game, sure, some of those decisions, as a fan, sitting there, stuffing my stomach full of stuffing and turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy, my stomach was twisted in knots with some of these super aggressive decisions. But, man, it worked. And Matt LaFleur empowered his team. He empowered his players to go out there and win this game. Put the ball in their hands. And his team rewarded him by coming away with that victory. And we talked about it last week. What was one of the biggest keys to victory in this game, or what was it going to be? There was a couple of them, right? One, it was limiting Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, the Packers held him to 20 carries for 68 yards. 3 catches, 18 yards. They had issues with Jameson Williams. 7 catches for $144 after St. Brown went out early in the game. I mean, Williams really stepped up. But what was the other key victory? Protecting Jordan Love, because in week 1, they kept Jordan Love clean. And by golly, that offensive line did it again. No sacks on Jordan Love. How many sacks on Jared Goff? 3. 2.5 coming from the closer himself, Micah Parsons. A lot of the same game plan from week 1, from a defensive standpoint. But I'll tell you, and I'll be honest, going back to October, end of September, no, it was October, I was already like looking at this game and thinking, I'm nervous. I don't know if, I was already like psyching myself out, thinking, this team ain't going to be going to Detroit and picking up a win. Not the way they're playing. I was impressed. I was impressed with the performance. Now, you could look at it, and Jared Goff, he had 3 sacks, a couple touchdowns. I mean, he was a typical Jared Goff, 20 of 26, though, outside of that, 256 yards. They made him go the long way. They dug themselves. Green Bay got off to a start and put Detroit into a hole. And then when Detroit started to, find their rhythm, Green Bay's offense countered it. Every time Detroit would inch a little bit closer, 4 points, 3 points, Green Bay's offense would come back and punch them back in the mouth. Complimentary football. So overall, I mean, would you say this is the considering everything, factoring in everything, point in time in the season, the best win for Green Bay this year? Maybe the most impressive? I think you can make an argument for that. I definitely think you could. And right now it sets up for this Saturday, that huge game against Chicago. I mean, this is probably the biggest until the next one coming up on December 20th. Packers-Bears game that we've had in a while with a lot at stake here. And honestly, the 20th, if everything still kind of continues, whatever happens this weekend, whatever happens, between this game and the second game, assuming everything is still the same, I mean, that 20th game probably will be the biggest one. But in terms of significance and a lot of stuff on the line, first place, Chicago's currently the top seed in the NFC with the Rams losing yesterday to the Panthers. Yeah, there's a lot on the line, and there's going to be a lot of trash talking. And, especially for our area here in the Chippewa Valley, we definitely focus more on there's probably a little bit more of a Packers-Vikings rivalry. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when it comes to anything like that. But considering how the Vikings are right now, I mean, they ain't going anywhere this year. And what the Bears are doing, heck yeah. This one means, when's the last time we maybe had kind of here we go. I think the trash talk is gonna amplify just a little bit more this week with it being Bears week. But Packers are going to have to go and finish this thing and finish the rest of the season and hopefully get into the postseason without one of their players that's been a big part of this team, and that's Devontae Wyatt. Just how big of a loss will it be with no Devontae Wyatt? And how nervous are you as a Packers fan with no Devontae Wyatt going forward? So what looked like it was going to be a bad injury ended up being a bad injury last Thursday with Devontae Wyatt getting carted off the field. And it's a fractured ankle, going to be done for the season. And it's a lot. I would call it a big loss. I would call it a big loss for this Packers team going forward to finish this stretch run. And, I mean, Devontae Wyatt, I think, definitely took a step this year in growth and especially in the pass rush, just providing a pressure from the interior standpoint. Now, if you want to say, well, he was kind of up and down this year, yeah, you would be accurate with that. I would say I wouldn't argue with that. But ultimately, though, too, I do think this is going to hurt this team going forward, more so from that interior pass rush standpoint. I mean, especially in those packages. I know it's not a Chalk Talk Wednesday, but especially some of those defensive packages when Micah Parsons would line up right behind Devontae Wyatt. I mean, that was kind of a lethal combo for interior offensive linemen to try to have to deal with both Wyatt and Micah Parsons at the same time. So, what now? What now? Now, for one, from a run defensive standpoint, Colby Wooden has been the main guy interior-wise when it's come to stopping the run. So Colby Wooden has been really good. I don't think the loss of Devontae Wyatt is going to really take a downfall in that department. But nonetheless, with Micah Parsons and maybe a little bit of a lack of consistency, and that might be putting it nicely with Rashawn Gary coming off the edge. I mean, the Packers have to figure out where are they going to generate pressure up the middle. And they can do it a couple different ways. Obviously, Mike is going to be continued to be moved around the defensive line and such. But one is, okay, when Quay Walker returns, maybe there's more interior pressure from an Edgerrin Cooper and a Quay Walker coming up the middle. Or they're going to be counting on a guy like Will Brinson, the rookie from Georgia as well. Now you look at him, and you look at he's been getting some increased playing time here as of late for the Packers. Warren, not Will Brinson. I'm thinking of the football writer, Warren Brinson, excuse me. But Warren Brinson has been getting increased playing time, and he, coming out of college, he was more noted for his pass rushing ability to get after the quarterback. He missed some time in training camp and preseason due to an injury, but he's shown some things here as of late, and he, I think, is going to be one of those guys that is going to be asked to play a bigger role in this. Now, if Carl Brooks comes back here soon, he will obviously be part of that. And if you look at NFL analytics, next gen, or ESPN analytics, he actually is a top 20 interior defensive tackle in terms of pressure rate. And then, of course, the other option is Lucas Van Ness. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. With the injury to Devontae Wyatt, would they say, all right, Lucas Van Ness, you're going to be more, regular playing time at that defensive tackle position. I don't know if he'd be big enough to be a full-time player over there going forward. But in terms of obvious passing situations, when Devontae Wyatt when Lucas Van Ness is healthy and ready to go, yeah, he will be out there. But that foot injury seems to really be affecting him. I mean, he tried to come back against Minnesota, only played 6 snaps, didn't play in this game against Detroit. And I know even before he returned, Matt LaFleur talked about it's going a little bit longer than what they anticipated. So sounds like it was a little bit more serious than what they initially thought. But it is a little bit of an unknown going forward. Who can help fill in for the loss of Devontae Wyatt, specifically from a pass rushing standpoint, interior pass rushing standpoint? I think you're going to see Warren Brinson get more opportunities. I think you're going to see Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker maybe coming up the middle more in blitzing situations, because I think the more they're playing Isaiah McDuffie, the more they're like, hey, maybe we got something here with more of our base 4-3. And especially going up against Chicago now, you might see a little bit more of those base 4-3 guys in there to try to slow down the run, to try to stop the run from the Chicago Bears. I mean, look what they just did against the Philadelphia Eagles, for crying out loud. Okay? I mean, putting up over 200 yards on the ground. They had 2 running backs in that game. Kyle and DeAndre, over 100 yards. Caleb Williams only had to go 17 of 36 for $154 in that game. So this Packers run defense, they better be ready. You might see a lot more of that base defense trying to slow down that running attack from Chicago. So maybe the Wyatt one, I don't want to diminish the importance, and I don't want to sound like that. I don't think losing him will have much of an effect in the run defense, but it definitely will have an effect on the interior pass rush. But I think, with Chicago, you might see more of that base 4-3. So does that mean more of Brinson? I think so. Or if Carl Brooks can come back, yeah. Stackhouse. I think one of the disappointments so far this year, and I know it was probably a lot to ask for an undrafted rookie, but it was Stackhouse. Nazir Stackhouse. He was supposed to be the guy that's going to be your early down, run-stuffing, defensive tackle to fill in for the departed TJ Slate. And Stackhouse got plenty of opportunities at the beginning of the season. But he hasn't played to that level, to that high level to earn those reps. Will they give him more going forward now with no Devontae Wyatt, and especially in this game against Chicago, where Chicago has so much success running the football? We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But man, what a contest we got coming up here. And sure, that Ben Johnson clip when he was introduced as Chicago Bears head coach, that kind of sparked a little bit of a conversation. Whether there was some animosity between Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur when Ben Johnson, praising Dan Campbell and praising Kevin O'Connell, and then making a comment about, I sure enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice this past year. To where it's like, I'm sure that's going to be played out there a little bit more. Matt LaFleur heard about it. I mean, he was asked about it. He knows about it. So, I feel like there's probably going to be this is going to be a little bit of a tense game on both sides here. Should be a good one, though. We got all week to preview this.